What's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And okay, so these PlayStation rumors right now are starting to get out of hand. I'm actually a little suspicious of the timing for some of these rumors and just how truly, absolutely absurd that they are. I do feel like the community is currently being misled in order to kind of regenerate some buzz coming off that PlayStation showcase last week that a lot of fans were disappointed by. And I hate to be a buzzkill here, I really do. But I also don't think it's right for the community to be misled either. So we're going to come back to reality today and talk about what's potentially happening here and what fans should expect going forward. If something more happens, then that is great, fantastic. But fans do need to temper expectations and be a little bit more cautious with some of the so-called rumors floating around currently. Also, Nintendo, they surprisingly made a public response for their ongoing battle against emulation. This is actually a first for them, I believe, so quite interesting stuff there. As always, though, before we get started, do hit those buttons below, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. With that said, though, let's just jump right into it, starting off with Metal Gear Solid Delta. After being in the rumor mill for several years, we can now officially talk about this as a real, tangible game, which is nice. I no longer have to see in the comments how somebody believes this is not a real game. It is absolutely real, and I'm also personally extremely happy about its existence, as I am a big fan of the Metal Gear series. But even after its announcement, there are still some major questions. We haven't seen gameplay, for starters, and the teaser itself didn't even note who's actually developing the game. Well, they have since confirmed that. Not only did they post some gameplay images, which at the very least gives us an idea as to how it looks without the CGI, but the other part here is that they confirmed that Konami and Virtuos Studios are handling the remake together. Virtuos is acting as a support studio from the sounds of it, though, and this is the part that I think is the most noteworthy. They did say that Metal Gear Solid Delta will be a faithful recreation of the original story and game design while evolving the gameplay with stunning visuals and a seamless user experience. So they're not making any huge changes to its story or anything like that. I personally find that to be a good thing here, as it gives us that faithful Kojima experience. I mean, the story for Metal Gear Solid 3 is still great to this day. You can go back and enjoy its story right now. The big changes, however, will be more about making its gameplay feel more modern. Now, we also got an update for the PlayStation Project Q. Sony did also confirm this device last week at the PlayStation Showcase, but even before that, Tom Henderson over on Insider Gaming did leak this device. He did a stand-up job with this leak to the point he described what this thing looked like to a T before it was even announced. So I think it just once again does paint him as a legitimate and trusted insider. And he did further talk about this device over the weekend. So we'll just go ahead and read what he said here. Prepare yourselves, because Insider Gaming understands that the Project Q battery life will be around 3 to 4 hours. Yep, you read that right. At least Project Q is on brand, with the DualSense having a short battery life, I guess. So, okay, a lot of people read this leak and they came off as a little surprised. But I think Tom Henderson nailed the reason down perfectly. He did say it's on brand with the DualSense, and that's because it is a DualSense controller. I mean, just look at this thing. They basically cut a DualSense in half and then slapped a tablet onto it. So I don't really think it's too far-fetched to believe, yeah, it could have a similar battery life as the PlayStation 5 controller. It is a PlayStation 5 controller with a tablet. Though the question is that a mistake? Well, the way I look at this situation is that you're going to be playing this in your house more than likely anyways, so charging it won't really be a major problem here. This is not a handheld in the same vein as something like the PlayStation Vita. You're not taking this thing outside your house. This is a remote play device. If anything, it's more similar to the Wii U tablet. It's meant to be played in a separate room in your house. So I actually don't find the battery life itself to be the be-all, end-all here. I mean, at the same time, I don't think that it makes the Project Q more enticing. It certainly doesn't help. The problem with the Project Q, and this is something that dedicated cloud handhelds also have to deal with, is that you can already use remote play on other devices such as your phone. In fact, I've used remote play on various devices over the years. I've used it on my phone before. I've tried it on the PlayStation Vita, the Steam Deck, and even the NVIDIA Shield Portable. I'm sure some of you all don't even know what that is, but remote play isn't exclusive to the Project Q. So I think in order to sell the Project Q, it's going to come down to two different factors. One, and this is probably the most important thing, it's going to come down to the price tag. And then number two is whether or not the Project Q offers a better experience than other options that's already available to consumers. So I think Sony needs to come out and really showcase this thing, what it's capable of, and give us that price tag. Let me know though, if you are interested in this device, would a 3 to 4 hour battery life really kill the hype off for you, or is it just no big deal? Let me know. Okay, so let's go talk about these PlayStation rumors that's going around currently, because some of this is quite frankly ridiculous. Now, it doesn't really surprise me because the timing of all of this is it's perfect. If I'm being completely honest here, what's likely happening is that some people are in just complete disbelief of what happened last week. The PlayStation Showcase was not good. I don't think that there's any way around that. I was genuinely hoping that it would be an awesome event myself, but unfortunately, it wasn't. Now, I said it last week, there were some exciting multi-platform announcements there, which was cool to see, but as a first-party showcase, there are different expectations, and it was lacking those exclusives. They never really answered what they have beyond Spider-Man 2, unless you just want CGI live service trailers. That's what we got. Now, just because this showcase wasn't everything the fans were hoping it would be, I'm sure they still have some unannounced games in development that fans will be really excited about. You know, it just wasn't in this showcase. But because there has been a lot of disappointment online, well, cue the rumors. And there's two that really caught fire here. One that's being passed around is that they have another PlayStation Showcase planned for later this year. It seems like a lot of people are quoting Tom Henderson as if he definitively confirmed this, but that's not what happened here. Instead, he posted a speculation opinion piece where he essentially said he believes they need a second showcase. Just to clarify though, he did later on confirm that he hasn't heard anything about a second showcase, but rather he just thinks it's possible. Now, a few other quote-unquote insiders since it's kind of stated that they had heard another showcase will appear later this year as well. Now, we're not going to name any names here, but something about me. I'm not a big fan of highly plausible, vague rumors, because to me, it looks like somebody is throwing something against the wall with a good chance of being correct so they can boost their online pedigree. I mean, I can make this same prediction that there will be a PlayStation Showcase later this year, and you know what? I have a pretty good chance of being correct. Now, the reason I bring that up here is because thinking logically, Sony will absolutely have another event this year. This is not some groundbreaking news. This is a company that since 2019, historically, they have had multiple PlayStation State of Play events every single year. What makes you think that 2023 would be any different? Sony will absolutely hold another State of Play at the bare minimum. You don't need insiders to tell you that. It's common sense. Whether they have another PlayStation branded showcase is a completely different thing. We'll see about that. Now, if it is just a State of Play, though, it could be an excellent State of Play for all we know. Time will tell, but I think people need to kind of be cautious with who and what they currently believe here. Don't get your expectations up too much, is all I'm saying. Instead, what I think is currently realistic is actually right in front of our face. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, the Summer Game Fest is on June 8th, and Jeff Keighley has already confirmed Sony will be there. So with that in mind, we might get an exciting PlayStation announcement there. Now, will it be a big blow you away type of moment? We'll see. But instead of expecting an entirely other PlayStation branded showcase, not a State of Play, but a branded PlayStation showcase that's, an hour and a half long, let's first just get past the Summer Game Fest and see what happens there. Later on this year, though, without a doubt, at the bare minimum, we will get a State of Play. Maybe something more. But I would be a little cautious on some of those rumors that are currently circulating. To me, this sounds more like people kind of trying to hype things up after the debacle that was last week. And that's especially in regards to acquisitions. So, okay. Over the weekend, a reported Destiny leaker claimed that Sony was acquiring CD Projekt Red and that PlayStation was developing Days Gone 2. Now, why would a Destiny leaker know this type of information? Should be the first question you ask. Now, the other clear, very, very clear sign that this was a fake rumor should be Days Gone 2. We already know Days Gone 2 is not in development because there was a huge, huge story about this about a year or so back. The Sony Ben director wanted to make a Days Gone sequel, but Sony, they didn't like the idea because the first game's Metacritic score wasn't all that great. So there was a whole bunch of hubbub about this. Then the director got upset. He's still upset to this day. And Sony Ben has since been confirmed to be working on a new IP. So I don't know why anybody took this rumor as serious in the first place when we already know all this information. But since then, the online world is run with the idea that CD Projekt Red, the studio behind The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077, was acquired by Sony. Now, if you don't know this, I'm going to let you know now, acquisitions rarely, if ever, leak. Now, the reason for that is because only high-ups within a company knows about this type of stuff, and they don't talk about it because they would get in a lot of trouble legally. So it's very, very rare that an acquisition leaks, and this is something that we've really learned over the last couple years. Throughout this entire acquisition season, ask yourself, how many times has an acquisition leaked? I can really only think of 2 situations where they did leak, and one of those was Bluepoint, and that was because Sony accidentally announced it a little bit early themselves. Other than that, you can chalk up some of those rumors as speculation. Bluepoint and Sony was always a realistic pairing considering their tight-knit partnership. It wouldn't be unimaginable that they would eventually acquire them. So, anytime you hear somebody talk about an acquisition leak, you need to proceed with a lot of caution. In this case, though, CD Projekt Red, they shut this rumor down. Several employees spoke out against the buyout online, but most importantly, the CEO said this: "Nothing has changed on our end, so I can repeat what we've been saying throughout the years. CD Projekt is not for sale. We want to remain independent. We have, I believe, an excellent strategy, not easy to execute for sure, but it's very exciting to follow our own path." So it's a pure rumor. So there you go. Enough said. On to the next topic, or at least until another fake rumor pops up about Take-Two, Square Enix, From Software, Capcom, Sega, or any of the other yearly claims that we hear. Now, Nintendo also, interestingly enough, publicly stated their feelings towards emulation. I think we all kind of knew this already, but to hear them actually say it is a first. So what's happening here is that the Dolphin emulator on Steam, which is used to play GameCube and Wii games if you're not aware, was hit with a cease and desist before even officially launching. Of course, they announced this back in March. The Dolphin is heading over to Steam, or was, no longer is now. So Nintendo issued this cease and desist, and they actually responded why. You can read it here, which says, "Nintendo is committed to protecting the hard work and creativity of video game engineers and developers. This emulator illegally circumvents Nintendo's protection measures and runs illegal copies of games. Using illegal emulators or illegal copies of games harms development and ultimately stifles innovation. Nintendo respects the intellectual property rights of other companies, and it in turn expects others to do the same." It's that last line right there that's so revealing. Valve is a platform holder. I think we saw this with the Xbox Series just earlier this year, as they also try to make emulation harder on the Xbox Series. Nintendo, I do think, played a major part in that. Nintendo doesn't take kindly to their games being played on these other platforms. So they worked with Valve and Microsoft to stop emulation on all of these platforms. Now, however, there is another part to this story, though, because one thing that has been brought forth is there's this big discussion about how Dolphin itself works. This emulator has been around for years and years, but according to Yakumono, the DMCA warning claims that Dolphin uses cryptographic keys without Nintendo's authorization. So, while an emulator itself is not illegal, this does, however, give Nintendo more power to target Dolphin specifically. So now the question kind of becomes, is Dolphin at risk being targeted by Nintendo beyond just Steam? Now, there's actually a whole thread about this from somebody that was previously involved with Dolphin. I'll just go and post that in the link below if you want to read into it. But my take on this is that it does seem unlikely. Considering the popularity of Dolphin, I do imagine Nintendo has been very aware of all this for a very long time. But in the meantime, the developers of Dolphin, they might want to tinker around to shore up any kind of issues that could come up with Nintendo in the future. What we do know, though, right now, is this is certainly a warning for emulation teams trying to put their stuff on platform holder devices. Nintendo absolutely has taken notice of that, and we've now seen that twice this year with the Xbox Series and now also with Steam. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, if the price is right, does a dedicated remote play or a cloud-based handheld gaming device interest you at all? And as you can see here, 74% of you said no, while 20% of you said yes. Now, that 20% is actually a little bit higher than I was actually expecting here, and I think it does kind of show you there could possibly be a niche market for a device like this if the price is right. I think at least when it comes to the PlayStation Project Q, as I said earlier, I think it just kind of comes down to the price and whether or not it can improve on what's already available to consumers. I think that if it does, you know, I could see it performing fairly well. Now I think it's just really up to Sony to convince us. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.